The premise of the Owl House is that a young girl accidentally falls into a magical heck dimension when she is supposed to be going to summer camp. She then decides to stay in that magical heck dimension until the end of summer so that she can try and learn magic, but at the rate that time moves within the show, it would seem that Luz is already running out of it, and she knows it. In the episode The First Day, Luz talks about how she really only has this one semester to get some learning in at Hexside, the School of Demonics, and considering she's already been on the Boiling Isles for some time, she may not even be able to stay for the entire semester. That was 4 full episodes ago at this point, 5 if you include the fact that Once Upon a Swap was aired out of order and should have been episode 15. Generally speaking, time moves in TV in such a way that each episode is the equivalent of 1 full week unless explicitly stated otherwise, such as 2-parter episodes, or how in the second episode of The Owl House it starts off the day after she got there. As of now, based on my count of time passed in the show, if we assume that literally no days exist in between the episodes that we've seen, it would mean that there was a bare minimum of 22 days that have passed within the show, or almost 1 month by the end of this season. One weird issue I found with this, however, is Amity's diary. The first entry we see has her talking about Luz, and it's marked for early June, but a later entry talking about Luz is marked for December, which would imply that it's already been 6 months within the show, but I'm going to assume that this is just an animation error. With this time frame, it would seem that there are several options for how the show can go. They can take their time frame very seriously and give Luz maybe 3 or 4 seasons that take place over the summer, or they could pull a Phineas and Ferb and make summer be seemingly endless with an infinite number of days and no regard to a timeline. Or, my personal theory for this video, they will find a way to keep Luz on the islands even after summer ends, and the person responsible for writing these letters to her mother may be able to help her out with that. Now, before I jump into it, I just want to address the theory that the Boiling Isles experiences time differently than the human world, and it looks pretty definitively like this isn't the case. This idea is similar to Digimon, wherein in the digital world, an entire day turned out to be a very small measurement of time in the human world, which explained how these kids could go missing for weeks, but then return home just minutes after they had left. On the Owl House, however, there are a few issues with that. In the Grom episode, we can see that both Luz and her mother are texting each other at night, implying that their experience of time is in sync with one another, and that she has received several letters from a fake Luz. While it could be entirely possible that the mail system in Luz's world is pretty instant, and that there are only 3 letters because only 3 days have passed in that time, I find that sort of thinking to be looking for an excuse to have a theory work, as opposed to strengthening it. And the evidence suggests that time is moving normally for the both of them. But the person who is writing the letters may be able to help Luz stay on the Boiling Isles even longer. While reading the letters, we can get a few clues about who this person might be, and I think it is possible that they are another Luz, or a demon who has become something that looks like Luz. Hear me out. One of the most interesting things the letter talks about is actually that this person supposedly learned about mortgages. Some people have theories that these letters are being written by someone from the Boiling Isles, and while mortgages may sound random, they are pretty in line with what Luz's mother said would be taught there back in episode 1. Things like balancing checkbooks and appreciating public radio. As humorous as learning about mortgages is, it is exactly in line with this conforming camp, which makes me think that whoever is writing these is actually there. It would also explain why Luz's mom never got a call about her daughter never showing up, something that couldn't happen if a demon that looks like Luz showed up in her place. Another telling detail is that this person misspells Luz's name, which in this case would be her own name. If someone from the Boiling Isles was doing this to assist Luz, or to do her Z with an S is a common mistake people make with Luz's name in real life. I see it all the time in the comments for these videos, for instance, which makes me think that this demon was told that their name is Luz and was later corrected on the spelling for it. Given that this is a camp for kids who are a bit oddball, I don't imagine that it was that weird for a camp counselor to notice this and have to correct them. Finally, the bulk of this letter talks about how she can't wait to see Luce's mother. If this demon fell into the human world and was essentially handed this identity, meeting your own mother might be something extremely alluring to her. Now, a lot of people think that this is a malicious thing, that this doppelganger for Luce is going to be an evil demon who is trying to eat Luce's mother or something to that effect, but I think that this is something the show will build up like her. Luce grew up in the human world and yearned for something more extravagant and fantastical, but this demon may have grown up on the Boiling Isles and wished for something closer to the Human Appreciation Society and thought of human life as something interesting and something that would be worth having. Or they may just be a blank slate. We assume that Luce went to the Boiling Isles without issue, but for all we know, this dimensional travel leaves something behind. Instead of switching places with the demon by going through the door, she may have left some blank version of herself that still walks the earth and may slowly be gaining intelligence as they explore the world around them. Regardless of how it starts, I think it's entirely possible that Luce will realize this other version of herself means no harm, but instead just wants to live their life on Earth the way that she wants to live in the Boiling Isles. Just one summer. And while it is sad that this would mean deceiving her mother, it is that Luce could still come visit from the Boiling Isles by swapping places with this other version of her when she needs to. Season 2 could even feature plotlines like Luce having to go as well. I don't imagine this dynamic can last forever, of course. At some point, at least I hope, Luce's mother will realize that this isn't really her daughter. Is this how the show manages to push itself into the future, or is it possible that the show just ends with Luce having to return to the human world in order to integrate her consciousness with this other version of herself, or send it back to the Boiling? See you next time.